My parents made me what I am. I am the protector of the deep.
Well, it's all about my life. You get to see, it's the origin story. You get to see what I was like as a baby and why I am the way that I am. And yeah, it's cool. I always love a good origin story.
My father was a lighthouse keeper. My mother was a queen. But life has a way of bringing people together.
We could unite our worlds one day.
Well, I love seeing James Wan do true horror. We have horror and we have so many different worlds in our universe that it was kind of amazing because he really could play out a lighter romantic part. When we see us in our Italian sequences or on land, you see us in the trench. You see his horror come out.
That horror part was pretty scary. I remember seeing that when James showed me where the trench and we're diving down. That was a really cool moment for me. I thought that was pretty special.
Like James Wan was really good at straddling all these genres. It's an adventure. It's action. It's at times thriller or horror elements. It's got it feels very family friendly. It's it does everything.
And Aquaman, I think, has always had that sort of that heart. Even in the comics, when he's drawn as a guy with blonde hair and a big smile, there's always been a sense of fun. So I think James really wanted to take the legacy of that fun and that color and bring it to the screen.
Well, I really pulled, my biggest source of inspiration was the comic book itself, right? And the comic book spans different flavors, different genres, right? And it really, at the end of the day, it really is a sort of like a fantasy story. It's a fantasy story with sort of, yes, shades of science fiction off one branch and then shades of horror because it's the ocean. So the ocean can be really magical and wondrous, but it can also be very scary as well. And I felt like that idea really led me as a filmmaker to kind of like literally tap into sort of different aesthetic that I love. On one hand, I love the idea of creating a world that's very sort of vibrant and very magical, and then on the other hand, I get to dig into my horror background.
In this trident resides the power of Atlantis. In the wrong hands, it would bring destruction. But in the hands of the true heir, it would unite above and below.
We pushed the limit on what you can do with stunts and cameras and wire work. So, we were at the forefront of doing something new, and that's exciting. And you're a bit of a guinea pig learning how to do it, and it's cool. And I think if we ever did it again, we'll be modifying even more to it, things that'll work better.
How was it making these underwater scenes without being underwater?
Right. Well, I once you understand, you wouldn't see air bubbles because they don't breathe air. You wouldn't, of course, look wet because you're underwater. Then you can. It's never been able to be done before, really. VFX sort of had to catch up with people's creativity and their vision. And once, and this was a learning process even for us. I mean, some days we'd be hanging in wires and, on different types of harnesses and just trying to figure out what looked right and how much we needed to sort of swim and be fluid in our motions because you'd move differently underwater. So it was a constant process of going back and looking at it, the playback and looking at the camera and going, okay, that works, okay, that doesn't, okay, I need to move my legs, it looks like I'm just dangling. So it was really very technical, and then you had to, but a learning curve. And specifically me and Willem, who would do a lot of scenes together, felt like we were doing some strange avant-garde theater. Which was great. We had a lot of fun.
They're challenging, but they'd be just the same as challenge it would be shooting it underwater because you can't breathe, so I'd rather breathe.
Atlantis has always had a king. Now I need something more.
But what could be greater than a king?
A hero.